Dear Caroline, we are so happy to have you here in our conference about healing, the Heal Revolution. And first of all, we would like you to present yourself and your work, the Omnium.
Thanks for having me, first of all. You guys look great. Your big smiles, just that to heal people, I think. My name is Caroline, and my healing work started very spontaneously. When I was very young, I was 5 years old, I started to see the subtle energy. So this means that I could see, it's not just the aura, it's a little bit more complex than that. But I could see when a person was not feeling well or angry or what have you, I could see the energy field change. And so when they were happy, also it would change differently. So since I was a young child, I could relate very easily the cause of the issue. Usually it was an emotional block or a thought pattern. You know, when people were thinking, having negative thoughts, I could see their whole energy field change completely. And so that was kind of the introduction. And then I wanted to understand the mechanics of all of this. Like, how does it work? You know, like, why does it change? And how does it change? So, of course, it took me, since I was a child, so it took me many years to kind of work through the mechanism of what was going on. And then I understood how the energy field is made up and how it's all interconnected, and how thoughts, even though they are invisible, they're actually actual physical particles of energy. You don't see them, but they're actual physical patterns. And so I could see how that was affecting the vibrational rate of the cells, and therefore creating illness. And so with time, I developed an entire methodology that I called Omnium, because Omnium means a part of the whole. I realized that you cannot exist outside creation, so you are just part of that whole picture. Mm-hmm. And so I think what the difference, or if I could say, the main difference with Omnium and maybe other methodology, what I understood was that this human energy field, or this human perspective, is part of a much larger perspective that is universal. And so I realized that I was tapping into universal frequencies. When I was healing people, I was not working on the energy field using planetary vibrations. Mm-hmm. I was finding vibrations that were beyond this planetary makeup. And of course, now I tell you this in 2 words, but it took a long time to develop all of this. How do you discern planetary vibration from galactic vibration from universal vibration? So that was, for example, shamanism works with planetary vibration, the earth vibrations. And so you can accomplish quite a bit with those types of vibrations. But I realized that the work that I was doing had to do with bringing those universal frequencies into the human body. And if you didn't do that, it's as if you were just working very locally, you know? Yes. You were not addressing the much, much, much larger picture, because you're here on a planet, which is within a galaxy, which is within a universe. So you cannot just adjust and address the planetary. You have to put it within the context of the universal. Yes. And so I'm going on and on.
That's great.
It's okay. So that's what I realized. that was the main difference with this work, is to understand that healing has to in order for it to be complete, has to do with doing the healing within those universal frequencies, the universal context. And when you bring the universal frequencies into the human body, it's a completely different type of healing.
Yes.
It's as if you are resetting the cell to its original vibration, even beyond, even before it was planetary, even before you ever incarnated, ever. So we're talking then about consciousness. We're not just talking about healing the body.
Yes.
We are talking about Pauline's original universal consciousness that is coming through and healing or resetting this body, which is the human aspect of the original you. So I realized that's the main difference with what Omnium does, is also very specifically bringing those universal frequencies into the healing. But the idea is how how do you know that you're not bringing a planetary frequency? How do you know how do you know what is the universal, right? So that's what I teach in my work, is to discern the difference. Okay, where do you find this frequency? How do you bring it through? So also something very important I realized as I was working with different people, there is no such thing in my work that is one size fits all. In other words, you know how I'm trained academically as a psychologist. So, if you do this, and that, then it's a mother issue. If you do this, and that, it's a father issue. It's like very kind of, the symptoms tell you this. And I realized with energy and consciousness, it's just never this way. The same people could have the same problem, but the root cause is different. The way they wrote that story is different, and the way they're going to heal is going to be different. And so of course, when I first started, I was working with one tool, let's say, intent, focusing your intent and bringing those frequencies through. And then it was, wait a minute, there's more tools. I need to bring a different type of tool. So I was using light frequencies. And then I started using sound frequencies. Then I started using geometry frequencies. Then I started using different types of gravitational pull techniques, and then 0-point techniques, and then also time suspension technique and time singularity technique. So I realized, wait a minute, you can't just have one methodology, one thing, and just put it on the body and, fix it. Of course, there are common things, So of course, certain things are going to work with most people, but the accuracy, the specificity that about your healing is extremely important. And I think that's what also makes Omnium very different, is that the healing methodology includes intent, light, sound, geometry, all sorts of different techniques that are used at the same time. So if I'm helping you right now, and then I'm kind of looking at your boyfriend on the right side of your shoulder, and I'm talking to you about the dynamics of this relationship, and you are starting to release something. Let's say I'm telling you, okay, well, there's this block. Let's go ahead and release it with intent. As you release it with intent, I can see and I can sense that Now you have another block in your chest about your mother, but it doesn't need intent. It needs light. So then I'm using light, and then I'm telling you, okay, release this using light. And then I see that the block is shifted to your knee. And I see that in order to, you see what I mean? So it's very specific, very accurate, and alive.
Yeah.
You know, as you respond to the healing, I help you with the next step, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think it would be also nice to hear an example with the client, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So that's what I was just saying was an example, a typical example. Because also I realized that the blocks or the issue is not just in one. I think most people know that by now, that it's not only in one part of the body. Even though you have a heart problem or a stomach problem, it's not only in the stomach. It's not only in the heart. It's probably in your knee or in your shoulder or what have you. In fact, most of the time it's in many, many places, and then it kind of ends up showing up in the heart or in the whatever. And so as we are undoing, it's not about doing, it's about undoing, as you know. As we are undoing this block, you know, sometimes I start with the knee because I see that that's the first thing that needs to go. And then as we release that, then that is connected to the shoulder, and then that takes me to the liver, and then that, you see what I mean?
Yeah,
Because it's a grid, it's a pattern. It's not linear. It's not there's one thing.
I understand very well, because I'm doing as well energetic healing, and from the feeling, I do it with a feeling. I don't see it. I see it, but I didn't train that one. But from the feeling, I'm starting. Okay, she first needs this one. Okay, this one had to be connected to this one. Okay, that's fine. Okay, and this is, I guess, this is in the same direction what you're telling us, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So of course, most people don't see the subtle energy, but they feel it. So it's perfectly fine. In fact, that's what we should, begin with, because, when you start to see or hear, that's a whole different type of dynamic. And then the human brain jumps in. Did I just see that? And, so when you focus on the one guidance that you have, usually the feeling, it's almost like you're concentrating all of your guidance through this channel, and you're that much more accurate. So you're probably being guided to that part of the body. So you are undoing the actual grid. It's all geometry. It's all, and this was also very interesting when I first saw how the blocks are, because I was like, that's interesting. Why am I going in the foot, or why am I, and then I realized it's like it follows a line, and it ends up being like a fishnet, like a net.
Mm-hmm.
And so the problem is the fishnet, if it has a knot, if you pull on it, it gets worse. You know what I mean? You have to kind of undo it, one at a time, so that it gets loose, and then the block goes away. So that's the precision. Sounds like you are already being guided to go specifically to different parts, and then undo this and undo this and undo that, until the whole grid kind of falls apart.
Yeah. And what's quite interesting, you were talking about, as I discovered this one, I couldn't understand, is that frequencies from the earth, is that frequency from this, and that's quite interesting what you're telling us, because from my side, it was like obvious this is universe frequencies. I didn't ask myself these points, because I just was feeling, okay, I'm not here, I'm doing it, it's nothing here.
Yes.
Always, for me, it was not this thinking. So is it possible to make a difference between different frequencies. I didn't get that consciousness.
Yes, look, the more precise you are, the more powerful you're going to be. You know, if you're, it's a different type of healing. It's a different type of feeling. If you, for example, sit in an energy that's, let's say, it's just love. It's so you feel good. You know, your cells are vibrating nicely. But if you say universal love or galactic love coming from that particular alignment, it's kind of like your mind, your consciousness directs the energy. Instead of it being a fuzzy light, it becomes like a laser.
Ah.
You see what I mean? So the effect on the cell is very, very different. If I put a beautiful light, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means
but I understand
different.
the point. Yeah.
So it means very different. So as I'm focusing on a particular frequency from a particular part of the universe or the galaxy or what have you, that precision allows me, for example, to heal this particular problem in the hand. I need to break it because the block is very, very old and kind of stuck, and so I need to break the pattern. I need the sound frequency. I need it to be very precise to bring it to cover it with love is not going to do it. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's what makes this becomes very interesting. To discern which frequency to bring when and what it will do. You see, it's a whole training. And so I noticed a lot of healers are like what you just mentioned, that they allow themselves to be the funnel, the conduit of, universal energy or source energy. And it's great. I'm not, there's no right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what makes Omnium different, is that we are learning these tools to have that specificity. Specificity means you go straight to the point and boom, it's that much more powerful and direct.
I understand that. Mm-hmm.
And can everybody learn this?
Absolutely. So I've developed this methodology, like I said, and I, in the first course, there's like a whole series, you begin with certain principles and understanding, and then you also have to practice on yourself to discern. And in fact, just a little side note, but it's kind of an important note. The way also it happened for me is the very first time I had an amazing experience. I was just like minding my own business. I wasn't meditating or anything. I was just kind of sitting around, and all of a sudden I felt like, wow, I was somewhere. I was, my whole body felt like so expanded, blissful. I was one with all of creation. The whole, you've heard this before, right?
The whole movie.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that was cool. What was that? I want to do this again. Mm-hmm. And so I, the next day I was thinking, so of course, I also have to say that I never had an earth teacher. I've always had my own kind of direct experience thing, which is also very important, because then it gets you, that's how I teach. I teach people to have their direct experience, to really feel themselves directly what it is, instead of somebody telling them, of course you have to guide a little bit, but yeah. So anyway, so I was like, okay, so I was researching, okay, who else is doing this, or what is that? I'm saying I was young, so I would see like people talking about, those blissful states, and they were saying you're merged with the cosmos, or you're merged with the planet, or what have you. And then I was like, so how do I know? Maybe I was merged with the tree, and the tree is so pure, it's certainly purer than, So I started doing an exercise, which is very important. I sat every day and then I said, okay, I'm going to merge with the trees and nature. And how does that feel? So I was like, this is really, really nice. But that's not it. That's not what I had yesterday. So then the next day I started merging with the whole planet, the consciousness of the planet. And that felt amazing. I was like, ooh, that's very, very cool. But that's not it. I started merging with the sun. I started merging with the galaxy. I trained myself from the beginning to know where I was, what that thing was, And so I realized that I wasn't merged with the, humanity's consciousness or whatever. Not that that would feel great, but, I wasn't in the cosmos. I wasn't in nature. I was in a specific frequency at the core of the universe. It was a specific vibration that was very different than anything else. And not only it was different, but so that's how I understood universal as opposed to galactic as opposed to, but also I could see that it was the source. It was like the heart or the brain or whatever, or the core of all of the universe. And it was actually the core of the universe. So that was what I called source. Mm-hmm. So that's why I understood, wait a minute, why do I need to go, if I want to feel good, raise my vibration, why do I need to go to the tree if I can go to the source that created the tree, Mm-hmm. Why do I need to go to the galaxy if I can go to the source that created the galaxy? You know what I mean? Yeah. I understood that that's the ultimate destination, if you will. And so that's why I created the meditation called Connecting to Source. And so I realized that the idea was to be here on the earth or on any other planet for that matter, but to realign your brain channels and your human frequency to that frequency. It's like the first point of creation, because that energy is the one that created this body. It's, Yeah. So that, I just wanted to tell explain about the discernment. And because of that discernment that I did on myself, to be very specific before I go out and talk about it, because it's like, okay, so you feel great and you want to write a book and you want to write and you want to tell, hey, today I had this exercise and, and it was amazing and this and that. But I wanted to tell people what it was and how the mechanism so that others can do it. I didn't want to tell people about me. I wanted to tell them about me, plus how it happened to me so that you can do it and discover it from within yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes, and doing it consciously, with consciousness.
Exactly. So going back to the healers and the different types of feeling, and you also asked me, can anybody do that? So this is part of the training. So, for example, we start to discern, okay, well, universal consciousness, what's that? Where are we going? What, so, okay, so let's go there. How does this feel? How does this feel? How does that feel? You see? So then the healer starts to discern within themselves through their internal mechanism and guidance, the difference.
Yes.
So then when you begin to discern, then after a while you're like, boom, this is divine mother energy. Boom, this is galactic being. Boom, this is an ET. This is an alien. You know what I mean? This energy is coming from an ET. It's not coming from an angel. I'm channeling my grandmother. It's not Archangel Michael. I mean, whatever, you know what I mean? So I felt that discernment is extremely important and crucial for anybody to understand themselves first, of course, and then to do the healing for others.
That's great.
I think it could be also interesting to hear, your opinion or your experience also in, getting into Earth, or being in the mother for some time and then coming on Earth. What experiences do you have, and how can you maybe also solve problems that have been caused there?
Yes, great question. So for me as well, part of this work, and as my consciousness was expanding, I realized also the more I reconnected, another important point, why we need to reconnect to the source frequency, because we all started our journey there. We didn't start here. I mean, obviously, you're born here or what have you. And even if, I want to say that, I don't know if it's within the scope of healing, but I want to say it. So certain beings on the earth are not all human. So some of them are human and evolutionary, and they are created, let's say, some of them are created, let's say, locally, by intelligences that are more, let's say, local. And other beings came from other planetary systems, and they incarnated as a human. And other beings came from yet further away in the universe, and beyond that even, but very, very few. But regardless, even if you are a human or an evolutionary being that was created, I'm talking created, like invented.
Not born.
Not born. Locally, meaning by another material intelligence that is not human, but material. Ultimately, like who created them and who created them? Ultimately, you still were kind of, invented or created from that source. That's the reason why it's important, regardless of what you feel, where you feel you belong, or who your direct creator is, let's say, you still have that ultimate connection to the source of all of creation. So if you want to understand why you came on Earth this time, how you got to Earth this time, you have to follow the thread of your entire consciousness and start at the beginning, which is very difficult. Because as a human, they teach us the exact opposite. They teach us first you go from A to B, then from B to C, then first we go to the moon, and then after the moon we go to Mars, and then we go in this linear line, a little bit further. But it doesn't work this way, because the perspective on Earth is 3D. So we're taking our 3D perspective with us. 3D is very, very, very small. And so we just keep discovering the 3D of the next line and the next point on this line. And so we're never going to see the entire universe if we keep going on this tiny little line. You see what I mean? It's like the other way around, which is kind of, I understood why this happened to me when I found myself over there. When you're over there, then you can look down and you can see the whole thing. So therefore, in order to understand your story, why you came here, how you got here, so anyway, just to answer your question as well, I got to understand this myself. From going back there and starting over, going back there, starting over, eventually my brain could stay up there and look down, if you will. You know what I mean? So therefore, eventually, I don't know if people call it reawaken or remember or whatever. So I could see my story. I saw exactly the type of consciousness that I am there, beyond this body, as a consciousness. I saw why I came here, how I got here, and how it all works from that perspective, you see. That's why it's not just about healing. It's about reconnecting with your original essence, your original you, which is the universal you.
In one way, it could be called healing, right?
Well, what happens is that once you are reconnected with your universal you, you are healed because,
yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? But I have to say, so the earth has, to answer your question too, once you're on the earth, obviously nobody teaches this stuff in school or at home or etc. So we have to figure these things out on our own. Plus, everybody thinks you're crazy if you're talking about stuff like that, So therefore, what happens is that it's very, very difficult to come to earth, be in this body, and wake up, and you're like, what's going on here? This is a mess, It's like, where do I even begin, And so it's very, very difficult to find your way. And many, as you well know, just look around, many, many people have lost their way. Okay, even the most enlightened or spiritual, what have you, it has been very difficult because the earth has a very unique history. I don't know if you guys want to go on in that topic, but and so the earth, I've written this in my books and I teach that also. You guys there's another course called Mastering the Human Mind where, we go about this, from the beginning kind of. And so you are entering in this matrix, in this planetary grid, which is very, very important to understand. There's a grid system around the planet that is coherent with the brain, with the physical brain. That's why when you enter this planetary grid, you can function like a human. You can hear the same sounds, you can see the same colors, and so on and so forth. That's what the planetary grid does. That's the planetary experience. But also within this planetary grid is everybody else. And it's, I'm simplifying here because there's a whole long course on just the grid, how that's made. And so, but part of this grid is the time-space. Time-space continuum is a grid system within this grid. And so every time you think and you create something, it alters the time-space continuum. It's as if that information gets registered on the time space. Does that make sense? Imagine there's just a grid lines, and every time we say something, it gets registered there, like a computer. Okay. So imagine all the humans since the beginning of time, all creating, right? And altering that matrix, that computer. And so that's a lot of people and a lot of information. And here you come, and we all know that it's not all peachy keen here on earth. And a lot of strange creations have happened before. And so this computer contains a lot of stuff that's just not very pleasant. And that's not necessarily yours. Let's say it that way. And so here you are, now you come into this matrix and you're trying to reconnect with, bring your universal consciousness, but you are surrounded, not just physically, but energetically, mathematically, all this stuff is actually within your cells as well. So 99% of you is now all of that. Speaking of discernment, then you have to discern, wait a minute, was that me having this thought, or was this like the collective consciousness? Mm-hmm. Why do I wake up all of a sudden and feel so depressed? No reason whatsoever. Why do I wake up all of a sudden and I have this huge anger in me? All of a sudden, it is because something on the other side of the planet could be happening, you see. Or you are tapping into the collective consciousness going through something, you know. So all of these things are very real. This is very real. And so the problem is, because we are not trained, we don't know. So as children, we are sensing our own stuff, but then we're sensing our parents, and we're sensing our extended family, and we're sensing in school, we're sensing all these things. And then when we get depressed, by the time we're a teenager, we're so depressed and suicidal. And so they take us to the psychiatrist and give us drugs, and because something's wrong with us, you know. So we're not educated properly because nobody teaches us to discern. What is it that you're feeling? Is this really you? Is this, are you sensing the energy of your friends around you? Are you feeling sad because your friend is sick right now? You know what I mean? We don't ask these questions to the children, you know, the discernment. And so before we know it, we're adults and we're totally confused. Why did we get here? What are we supposed to do? What's my job? What's my career? Am I doing, you know? And it becomes, and then here comes this spiritual healer and this spiritual teacher, and it's very, very difficult.
But realizing at this point what you were saying already helps, that not everything has to be yours, and just spend so much around you.
Yes, sometimes I post on Facebook because I have so many people like who are like, what's going on? Like, I feel so depressed. And I get like 100 emails from different people around the world telling me the same thing, which of course I've been saying, but sometimes people they're not connected to, like, they don't know that everybody else is. And sometimes it's physical symptoms. Sometimes we have Sometimes we have heart palpitations for no reason, or we feel extremely exhausted, or we have some strange kind of physical symptoms out of the blue for over a period of time, and then they go away. And so you don't realize that it's because there's a strange collective energy going on. Sometimes it's where you are, but sometimes it's not necessarily in your geographical area. And that's what's so fascinating. You know, sometimes it could be down in Southeast Asia, and then all of a sudden you have this deep, strong depression.
Yeah,
because and so if you're having all of a sudden heart palpitations, and you're like, oh, something's wrong with me, I'm going to run to the doctor. But if you know, you say, wait, okay, I know that's not pleasant. Let me just feel and see, is it me? Is it this? Is it collective? Sometimes it's your spouse. Sometimes it's your child, you know. Then you know what to do instead of rushing to the first thing. Yeah.
And this grid, does it have to do something with the fact that when we incarnate, we forget everything?
Yes. So I have to say something also quite important, that in a way you are supposed to forget some things because energetically, so again, to simplify things, but what happens is that your consciousness back there is, let's say, your full consciousness. So it's very, very big. And you're trying to come into this planet that's very, very small. It's like a huge elephant that's trying to go through a small door into a smaller room. So, I mean, you can push, you know, mathematically, it's never going to happen. So what this elephant has to do is he had to break himself apart. He has to break his consciousness into pieces and put one piece at a time. And on the other side of the room, then he could put the pieces together. So when we arrive on the earth, we are, of course, symbolically, I'm saying, you know, we are not whole. And we are kind of in different pieces, if you will. I mean, this is just an example. I mean, Yeah, but this breaking apart of your consciousness and also coming from, depends where you came from. Some people came from Mars, and that's not very far. It's not a huge, it's like if you travel from Switzerland to France, it's not as bad as going to China. You know what I mean? So it's kind of in the same way. If you're just traveling, from Mars to here, it's not a big deal. But if you came from another universe, I mean, it's like, whoa, so you have to take yourself apart, so to speak. And then once you're on the other side, you have to put yourself back to, so this breaking down of consciousness makes you forget because you're not, you know what I mean? But so that's one reason why you forget. The second reason is you're supposed to forget because you're supposed to focus on here. Because if you keep feeling the way you are up there, you don't want to be here. You're like, what's going on here? This is so small, and
let's go somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't.
What's the mess?
What a mess! I'm done with this thing. Goodbye. And so you're supposed to forget to focus on the human and to really kind of understand the human body, the human consciousness. And after a while, once you've focused on this for a while, you're supposed to, it's like it's safe for you to have both because you understand. And unfortunately, because we don't do this through our school system and our education gradually in a natural, progressive manner, this awakening of the full consciousness. By the time we're 20, we're like, okay, I'm out of here. Or by the time we're 40, we're a mess. And then when we're 55, we're like, ooh, I'm going to become spiritual and do meditation and yoga. But because like so much time has passed without this, it's very strange. It's very rough, and there's a lot of fear that comes up. And you think that once you become spiritual and connected, you're gonna lose your 3D life, and people aren't gonna like you, and your boyfriend's gonna leave you, and you know what I mean? Because it's such a big contrast between, you know what I mean, between nothing and all of a sudden connecting to the whole universal consciousness. So that's the reason why this. Okay, I thought I turned off everything. Sorry, will you be able to edit this out? Sorry about that. I don't know how this came. Okay, so going back. Sorry. Okay. So then the remembrance is supposed to be a temporary thing. You focus, the forgetting. The forgetting is a temporary thing. You forget the where you came from, etc., to focus on the human form, but then gradually you're supposed to reintroduce it, through education, through and then before you know it, you're 20 years old, you have a sense of who you are, what's going on, and you work on that more and more and more and more. And then it's an easy transition.
But is that specific to us? Is that specific to us? Because I got the information, is that specific to us?
Yes.
So different planets, and why is that then specific to us if it is?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So again, that's the big problem. It's not specific. The forgetting is not specific to Earth in the sense that every time you break down your consciousness, like I said, if you're an elephant, you're an elephant. Every time you go into a material form, you have to break down your consciousness. But what's unique to Earth is what happens on the other side. Meaning, normally, like let's say we are on another planet, let's say Jupiter actually is inhabited. Nobody can see it because it's a different dimension. But anyway, that's a different subject. But if you were
explaining, understand you.
Yeah. Okay. So if you were to incarnate from a the elephant, the big higher consciousness, into another material form, but that's more evolved than human. Okay, imagine Jupiter. There are other beautiful beings like yourself, but they're very evolved. So you're still going to forget. You're still going to go in and be born and forget for a while. But then gradually you're going to have that remembrance as a child. You're going to tap into your universal consciousness. Your parents who are enlightened are going to tell you, yes, what you saw was your energy field. And then you're tapping into your lineage. And, you know, so you could visualize things this way and blah, blah, blah. I mean, you know, so you will grow up with this remembrance in a normal way. I mean, what I think it should be normal. What's unique to the earth is that once we get here, it's a mess. And that is very unique to the earth, because the earth and a few other planets actually, but especially the earth has been, we talked about the planetary grid. The earth has been quarantined, if you will. It's been dismantled, it's been tampered with. So there are other beings who understand all of this, and they've kind of interfered with the evolution of the species. And that's about 237,000 years ago, where that first kind of experimentation started to happen on planet Earth. And it's like the species got a bit stirred into a different direction, and it got cut off from that source, the energy that is connected to, you know, Earth, the inhabitants of the earth. And so 237,000 years is a lot of time in linear time, but in the cosmic time, it's not that long. I mean, as you know, but it's enough to, when you are on the earth amongst the human who have been living like this for 237,000 years, we were talking earlier about all the information being collected and registered within the time space. Well, it's all here. 237,000 years of chaos, aggression, selfishness, greed. That's what happened. And so when you show up in this, it's that much more difficult.
And what do you think would be important now for everybody on Earth?
Well, the first thing is to understand that connection, that the ultimate connection is that no matter what happens, and it's like it's never too late, you can always reconnect and realign with that source connection. And so the idea is to educate people, you know, and of course, as you all know, within this 237,000 years is religion, is government, is all sorts of stuff, right? And so that's why I believe our work is to do the best we can to educate people about what else is out there. And more importantly, like I said, the mechanics of it, how to do it. And so if you know how to connect to source, how, I mean, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Through intent, you can do anything. So you just, even if you intend for that to happen, the rest of it happens. And so I think that's what's so important, is to remind people that regardless of how bad their life is, how bad things are on the earth, not only it's not too late, but it is time to do it. Like, I mean, there's plenty of time. I mean, not plenty of time, but you can still do it and always reconnect. And it's that's the flow of life. That's the eternal, what people call eternal life, not like religion, but like that's infinite life. So it's like you are reconnecting with infinity, with the source of creation. So I think that's what's most important. And from that, the healing begins, the remembrance begins.
Yes. And just shortly, we had an expert in that direction, but I think this is important for people to go in the healing direction as well, just to understand this. You're speaking about the grid, creating everything. It is linked to the history of the earth, right? Just shortly, just for the people. They can research on their own afterwards, but just I want to have it said here.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the grid.
I think the grid, it is linked to the creation of the humanity here, right? Of the humans.
The grid system that I mentioned. Yeah. So what happens, so I have a whole information on my website. I'll send you all those links, but people can read about it. Because what happens is that this grid system, part of this grid system is the time-space, like I said, where all this information is contained. And because this grid system creates reality on the earth, if this grid system is dismantled or tampered with, well, everybody within the earth is going to feel separated, is going to feel illness, is going to feel everything that's happening.
Yes.
So that's that. So having said that, there are also beings who are here on the earth, who came more recently on the earth, and who have been capable of creating another, to repair, let's say, the grid system. But to me, it's not so much repairing this broken thing, but to create a new one. Mm-hmm. And so there is an old broken reality, and there's a new created reality. So it's like two grids, two brains, one old brain and one new brain. And so the problem is, you are still on the earth, you're existing within both. So you are, you're inside the old brain and you have the new brain. But if you don't know how to tune into, and obviously the new brain, the new matrix is universal frequencies. Does that make sense? So that you as a human, when you align your brain frequency and your brain channels to the new grid system, then you begin to download and you begin to reconnect with who you are and to bring that universal healing through you and to you. So it is already
Earth, right?
Sorry?
This is what is so-called new Earth, right?
Yes, the new Earth, exactly. But like I said, today as we're speaking, the new Earth and the old Earth are coexisting. Mm. And so there has to be a sort of a separation, energetic separation, in the sense, meaning a lot of the old has to continue. That's why certain things, people think that, all the people who are misaligned are going to all of a sudden start doing yoga and meditation and they're going to convert. It doesn't work this way. There's so much momentum that it's easier, it's faster for the violence to continue to accelerate, so that the violence explodes itself. It's like law of attraction, if you want to call it. Does that make sense?
Yes,
it doesn't make sense. All of us, the terrorists, who have been trained for years and years and years, generation after generation, all of a sudden they're going to go, oh yeah, I think I'm going to put down my weapons and go. It's not even logical in terms of energy. The energy has a momentum. If you have a lot of momentum, if you are just starting, yes. So 200,000 years ago, we could have done that. But after 230,000 years of doing this, the violence, it's easier for this violence to explode, and that self-destructs.
Mm-hmm. So interesting that you're saying this, because I sense this.
Yes.
Truth for myself, but I've never heard somebody else telling this. So I feel touched.
And then when the virus self-destructs, it destroys itself. You don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to destroy it. You don't have to tell it what to do. You just allow it to self-destruct. So it's going to self-destruct while the new grid system, the new brain, the new heart, the new consciousness is doing its own thing. You don't have to, I mean, everybody has a different also part of their calling, let's say. They feel they need to go and tell people to stop doing that. And that does serve a purpose, most of it, sometimes. Or you can allow and you focus on what you're here to create. It's just a different approach. There's no right or wrong.
That's quite interesting.
Yes.
It takes, I think, a lot of people, because sometimes you are like not fighting, because you know, okay, at one point you realize, okay, I can't find, it doesn't bring anything, I create something new.
Right.
If I put energy in that, it's just like fooding, right? This energy. So I let it. But it's quite interesting, because a lot of people are still fighting because it's not possible, that's not possible. And here you just make a point like, is this possible to see in another way, right? It has to. It has to self-destruct.
But like I said, don't get me wrong. Some people, part of their journey and their calling is to say, hey, stop. Some. But most of the time, most people are doing this just as a reaction. You know, think about it. If you have a virus in your body and it self-destructs, you know, and you don't have to put healing on it or medication or anything. So it's gone. Like, so does it matter how it's going to self-destruct? It's going to self-destruct. You know, so I might as well focus on the rest of my body, and, you know, or something like that. You know, don't get me wrong now. I'm not telling people.
I got your point. And we have to have a lot of people fighting and telling the truth, because the other people awake through this. I was like,
again, that, like I was saying earlier, there's no one size fits all. Everybody wrote their story according to their consciousness. Before coming here, they came from a specific part of the universe, specific part of the planetary system, to do something very specific in a specific way. If we all came to do the exact same thing and we were all shouting, well, then nobody's there creating the new earth. You see what I mean? And if we're all doing the new earth, then nobody, you know, so that's why when we're speaking about these things, it's important, again, for people to discern for themselves. Did I really come here to go fight and write petitions and do demonstrations and do all of that? Or am I just following what my friends are doing? Who am I really? You see what I'm saying? What am I here to experience and really, really do, and how to heal myself and others through who I am? So discernment.
What do I want to experience as well on earth in the end? Because and what we want to experience on earth in the end as well.
Absolutely. And that's another thing, because the more we focus on fighting what we don't want, the more we're focused on what we don't want. And then there's so we have to have some people, hopefully most people, focusing on what we do want, because the vision, it's, as you know, consciousness, intent, your focus, that's what's going to make things happen.
Yeah. Great.
Do you have something to end this nice interview we've had for the for the listeners?
Yes. I would say maybe just like a very simple thing. I would love to, for people to, like I said, I have a massive library of free meditations that people can just go and experience and explore. But today, maybe if we can just have every person who is listening and watching to just go to their heart, to remember that within themselves is a very powerful guidance system. And it's not in the head, it's in the heart. And to just begin to invoke universal source energy within their heart. Just begin with that awareness and the desire to remember who you really are your connection, your presence in this human body as a universal consciousness. And so as I'm doing that, I feel like I'm doing also some energy. I don't know if you feel it. I hope you do, and I hope people will feel it. But as you direct your focus to your heart and invoke this remembrance and this source connection, from this place you will find a lot of peace and a lot of clarity. And this will help you move forward.
Thank you so much. Do you want just a small word about your film, right?
Oh, sure. Well, the one I'm doing right now, or
0 Point, yes.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is a documentary film, and it's about, actually, I called it Gods Among Us, but again, it's about discerning the types of being who are on the earth. You know, there's a lot of talks about alien contact and ETs and Greys and very scary things and abductions and things like that. And conspiracies. So what I wanted to do in this film is to also, bring that, but to bring also the rest of the story, that there are all sorts of other types of intelligent beings who are here in physical form or visiting us back and forth, and who are interacting with us and doing all sorts of very cool stuff. So this is what the documentary is about: who is here now doing what, but also I'm bringing the science behind it, meaning, so if these beings are here, how did they get here? And how are they communicating with us? And how are they becoming human? So a little bit of that science, I think, will be very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Caroline.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. That was fun. Yeah.
Thank you. See you, yeah?
Okay. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon. Ciao.
Ciao.